I'm truly humbled by this invitation today, and I'm extremely grateful for the kind introduction that you have given me. I want to first say a couple of words about my very brief encounter with Dirk Ficca that was nevertheless very meaningful for me. Dirk Ficca interviewed me for the World of Neighbours program, and what I received from him during this our short encounters is his deep understanding that migrant and refugee rights are not only and can never be only about ideas, about legal rules, or about even a vision of global justice. For him, it was always mainly, and I think very importantly, about individual people, their particular behaviors and beliefs, and only when coupled with greater ideas, whether they come from faith or from law or from other sources, um, his vision could really be articulated and go forward. And I was very, very touched by that, and I would like to um, devote my comments today to that, to following up on those themes. So I want to start by prefacing that this talk will be based on research that I've done previously with another researcher based in Austria named Julia Morar-Permusar. And this is a forthcoming paper of ours called Floating Sanctuaries, the Ethics of Search and Rescue at Sea. And here, what we tried to do is follow up on the various discourses about criminalization of rescue and examine whether rescue, which seems to be an absolutely positive activity, actually has any ethical dilemmas involved with it. And we wanted to find this out from the position and from the perspectives of those involved in rescue. And so we went out and we talked with 25 very, very central activists in the main rescue organizations that are in the Mediterranean right now. And my talk today about lawyering will build on some of the insights from there. And our premise there was that the criminalization efforts that we're now all very, I think, familiar with, claiming that rescuers are somehow colluding with smugglers, with traffickers, and therefore are acting in a criminal way, in a way that might even be harmful towards migrants and refugees, that this discourse, may be completely politically motivated from the perspective of trying to close borders and trying to say no to the welcoming of refugees, the values that the World of Neighbours stands for. But there might be some element of truth in the sense that there are ethical questions involved, even in rescue, even in an activity that seems to be absolutely and entirely for the good. And so I'd like to open with this quote from one of the people that we spoke with, who is one of the group of people that is also prosecuted in Italy currently for rescue activities in the Mediterranean. I won't say his name, of course, for reasons of his safety. We kept all the identities secret. And he says it is a big difficulty for the whole SAR community, search and rescue community, that we discuss a lot of things only among ourselves, have little open discussions with other actors, friends, and comrades. Due to the constant criminalization, but also the political pressure, we're often forced not to openly discuss important questions, which leads to them not even surfacing in a socio-political discussion. They remain in their own discussion spaces, are cut off and invisible. These are the ethical questions of what happens when you rescue people and what might be the unwarranted or undesired consequences that one must confront. And I want to say today that lawyers representing asylum seekers might also have some similar questions that arise from their work. And so when we started to talk with people, we found out that the ethical questions don't all, or even don't mostly, pertain to collusion with smuggling networks or traffickers, be it in Libya or in Turkey, depending on where in the Mediterranean you think of. They also relate to collaboration with governments, with the Italian government, with the Greek government, with European governments that may then receive people, migrants, refugees, and treat them in a harmful way despite legal obligations. And so in a way, the rescuers are responding to a very direct command, a command to save life at sea when life is at risk. But they also are recognize that their actions might have influences not only on the southern coast of the Mediterranean Sea, but also on the northern coast of the Mediterranean Sea, in both cases with a kind of possibly in some cases harmful results that we need to mitigate, that we need to think about carefully. So one of the techniques that arises here, which is particularly interesting, I think, for lawyers, is a technique of acting without, while choosing not to have an absolute and full knowledge of everything that might be implicated, because you simply cannot act in the name of something that you know is just if you end up delving into the rabbit holes of different implications. So one interviewee says this: "I do not know anything besides that there was an alert by somebody, whether it be alarm phone or airborne operations or the authorities or another ship or even Frontex, that there is a boat in distress. As somebody who is on the boat, I don't want to know more," and this is important, and this is a conscious choice. That's all I knew, and that is by design, to protect me and to protect people on the boat. Otherwise, you can do harm to yourself or to other people while rescuing. And so we see this structure here, which I think encapsulates our insights in this study that is preliminary to what I have to say today. The rescue itself is a command of the conscience. You see it in the blue ball in the middle of this figure. And there's two chains. The rescuer is in fact a part of two chains. One leading from a dangerous coast in northern Africa, for example, and another leading to a seemingly safe coast in Europe. But in both chains, there are ramifications that may be harmful for the person you're saving, and you want to create what we call a floating sanctuary. So as I said, the rescue is confronted with two kind of ethical dilemmas, and they are creating a kind of sanctuary, a floating sanctuary at sea while performing the rescue, in the sense that while they're doing so, they're suspending governmental authority and the two different kinds of chains in order to uphold a kind of higher law, whether they think of it through international human rights law or whether they think of it through moral conditions. Indeed, at least in the context of German organizations, churches have been very, very active in funding this activity as part of their role and understanding. And my question in this context today is, does the lawyer also play a similar role of creating a kind of sanctuary for an asylum seeker? And so if we focus on rescue, we focus on the first encounter, indeed, the moment when, it's very, very hard to get any story from people. It's very hard to understand where they come from. And really what's interesting is not their story and where they come from, but simply to save them and to put them in a port of safety. But once they are in a port of safety, for example, in a European country, then they will often have to submit an asylum request. And that's when they start to meet with lawyers. And that's where they start to need to tell their story in a way that's compelling from a legal point of view. In this regard, they will have to prove that they have a well-founded fear of persecution under Article 1 of the Refugee Convention of 1951, the Geneva Convention. And this will be for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership, or membership of a particular social group or political opinion. But the truth is that in many cases, as many people have indicated, it's extremely, extremely hard to differentiate and distinguish between these protected reasons as recognized in the convention and other reasons. For example, extraordinary dearth or the risk of famine, the risk of disease in a developing country that might also make someone choose to leave their home and to try to seek protection in another country. Further, it's sometimes even hard to know whether prioritizing political persecution, persecution based on race, or persecution based on ethnicity, the recognized conditions in the Refugee Convention, is even related to any cogent vision of global justice, of what might be correct for as a justifiable reason for migration. Indeed, I oftentimes go back and remember a particular Afghan refugee that I worked with for a while, who had been recognized as a persecuted individual in Greece, and because he was Hazara and because he had been persecuted based on his ethnicity. And I asked him whether, if we cannot protect everyone crossing borders, then protecting only those who have suffered from persecution might be just. And his answer was very, very clear, and it was very, very striking to me. It was, if you are persecuted because of your political opinion, you can always change your mind. If you don't have food to put on the table, you really have no choice but seeking asylum elsewhere. So, in other words, there is a way in which the very basic legally recognized categories that have been created in the post-World War II world are precisely the opposite of what the vast majority of people need and what might be the most difficult conditions to suffer, conditions of absolute and terrible famine or dearth. Now, I'm not saying, of course, that being persecuted for political reasons or for race, ethnicity is not important. I'm just saying that there's an enormous discord that must be recognized, and that is recognized by members of the community of lawyers that work in this field, between moral claims that people on the move may have, and between what the law might give them. Further, commentators and scholars have in recent years explained migration as a certain form of making claims of global justice. I'm thinking here, for example, about a page by a scholar named Tendaya Chiume, Migration as Decolonization, where she writes that migrants from developing countries, when they move to their former colonizers, they are performing a kind of global revolution and acting to realize their rights in a way that is transformative and in a way that is politically important. So for a refugee lawyer, when she needs to simply limit herself to the recognized conditions in the Refugee Convention, she must, to some degree, eliminate the wider claims that might be really the motivation in the background, and she must also overshadow this aspect of a kind of transformative vision that comes from migration. It can never be part of the legal process or front and center in the political process, even though it might be motivating for the lawyer to act, and also to some degree for the migrant to move, especially in the aspect of protecting themselves from aspects of basic need that are not protected by the convention. So what can a lawyer do in such a situation? Of course, in this context, many people on the move will choose, in actual fact, not to speak and to, in a way, simply move under the radar of authorities and enforcement powers and try to make their living in an exploited way, but not to present themselves before the law, because the law will not really give them opportunities, will not really give them the kind of protection that they may need, because it's stated in such narrow terms. And so I often think of this in the context of criminal defense lawyering and the right to remain silent in a criminal procedure. Before becoming a lawyer in the context of asylum, I had also some experience as a criminal defense lawyer. And here, in many contexts, the decision of defendants is simply not to talk. But in the context of asylum, of course, that will not lead to any recognition by the law, and it really will spell a kind of life under the radar of legality. And so, in the meeting between a lawyer and an asylum seeker to prepare for example, a refugee status determination procedure, the lawyer will have to construct some story that is recognizable by the law. And here there is an ethical dilemma, which is, what do you really want to listen to? What do you really want to um, emphasize? And what do you want to try not to listen to and try not to know in order to work? I'm reminding you in this context of what I told you about the rescuers in the beginning of this talk, when, for example, rescuers are choosing not to know about certain aspects of what brought people to where they are on the coasts of Libya in order to be able to continue with their action of lawyering. In the same way, lawyers, and myself included, often find themselves in a situation in a meeting with a client where they want to protect someone, but they know that some of what they're saying will not work to their behalf, not for reasons that have to do with their justness of their claims, but for reasons that have to do with the narrowness of the legal categories that are applied. And so you find yourself in a way having to say things like, I don't want to talk about that now. And so you're pushing back on certain aspects of what comes up in order to kind of cast the story that will be legally compelling, even though, as I said, you know that you're creating a kind of narrative to a certain degree, in order to be for it to be recognizable by the law, that pushes back certain aspects that may be very, very important in terms of the individual that you're representing, in terms of their claim of justice that they're performing by their action of moving. And so another way to put this is that lawyers in the context of asylum are in a certain risk of creating a certain narrative of a good refugee or the narrative of a good migrant, which is one that has to push aside certain aspects of their identity and put put front and center other ones in order to survive. And so the question that is, in my mind, a very crucial one is the question whether that is indeed a necessary aspect of this practice, or is there a way in which there could be a certain form of representation that creates a translation between what is in actual fact motivating a person and what the law can recognize, that is that can bridge between that gap, that can create can generate a step that will eliminate that gap and allow a certain form of recognition that is also relates to who the person is and what is driving them. I think one way in which lawyers have been doing this is by representing not asylum seekers themselves, but faith communities that are giving these people sanctuary. So if you're not representing the person that is on the move, but representing a church or a synagogue that is trying to protect them, you are expanding that protection, but you're not confronted with the same ethical dilemmas, because the faith-based communities do not demand, in the way that the law demands, that a person presents um, ticks the boxes that are recognized by the law. Faith-based communities in the United States, for example, have pushed a much wider vision than that. And so lawyers, when they join the sanctuary movement, are also able to push a wider vision than what would otherwise be necessitated by the legal conditions for protection as they stand. And so, and for example, one person whose case comes to mind is a person named Ravi Ragbir, executive director of the New Sanctuary Coalition, who has been arrested in 2018 and represented by the NYU Law Clinic. But there are many, many cases starting from centrally during the 1980s and forward. But I also want to say that there is a way in which this circuitous move might be also avoided, and the legal consultation meeting itself might also form, in and of itself, a measure of asylum. And here I go back to the relationship between the role of the lawyer, the role of the rescuer that I started with, and the role of the religious authority. Um, in this regard, one can even imagine that the lawyer's office becomes a certain kind of safe space in which it's possible to confide and address issues on a broad range of topics, some of them relevant, some of them not relevant. And then the lawyer becomes a kind of mediator between their own safe space in which they're protecting the person and the government, in order to eliminate the need for asylum and then allow that person to step into society with a certain kind of status. And in that regard, I believe that the role of the lawyer and the role of the religious community, or the church in particular, or the synagogue, giving a measure of asylum, for many, many hundreds and hundreds of years, is actually very, very close. And in that regard, there is something to learn for the legal practice from practices that religious communities have been doing for centuries, in terms of how to go forward with representing people. And in that regard, it is an intermediary step. It's a step that's not meant to remain forever. It's a step that's supposed to be just a kind of transformation period between that moment of encounter, for example, an encounter at sea and rescue, and a moment in which there is a much wider integration and a kind of gradual becoming part of a society. In that middle way, there is this moment in which I think lawyers are very important in creating a translation for a certain person of their story to a story that can be recognized, that can be accepted by a host society. And in this regard, the role is quite analogous in important ways to the roles of religious communities. And just in terms of concluding my remarks today, I think that what I learned from Dirk Ficca in our few conversations that we had was this kind of inspiring encouragement I took from him, this kind of inspiring encouragement to try to develop a vision of lawyers that are closer to religious communities in Europe as well, and try to find ways in which the practice of lawyers can have greater relationships with local religious communities in order to advance a vision in which this idea of sanctuary is more prominent in the practice of legal representation. And as I go forward from this evening today and try to think how I want to carry forward, hopefully with some other members of the World of Neighbours network, I think of that. I think of the connection between lawyers and between religious communities as a way to give sanctuary in common and provide this kind of intermediary moment that will allow for greater participation and for protection while the particular way of greater participation is articulated and spelled out for a person in a kind of dialogical way. Okay, those were my thoughts for this evening. Once again, I'm very thankful for you allowing me to participate in this event, and I'm grateful to be part of this network. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mann, for this thought-provoking and engaging lecture. It certainly enlarged my understanding of the ethical dilemmas that lawyers are facing, not least in the context of migration. And also it has, I think, increased my appreciation for their work, but also for the role of faith-based communities, for the vision of a sanctuary, and for the importance of story, of narratives in the legal respect, but also in other for your lecture. And that said, I also want to say how wonderful that we have 4 days of being able to delve deeper into all these issues and enlarge all our understanding engagement. So see you around during the week in seminars and other events, and of course on Thursday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Central European Time. That is Stockholm, Berlin, Rome, Vienna, and thereabouts. Then we will gather in a live event on keeping our humanity live. And now we will soon end, and we will do this on a high note, so to speak, namely with music. In a few moments, I will pass on word and sound to two wonderful people, namely practitioner, activist, and minister in the Reformed Church in the Netherlands, Rico Voorberg, and to musician and composer Rudi Kimpioka from Rad Music International at Lesbos. There were a lot of R in there, like in ready. Rico, Reformed, Rudi, Rad, and I am ready to hand over to you, Rico Voorberg and Rudi Kimpioka.
Thank you so much for your introduction, and it's my great honor tonight to introduce to you my friend Rudi Kimpioka, who is currently on Lesbos, and who's gonna sing a song for you, but not before you get to know him a little bit. It's when I met Dirk, we talked a lot about how to work for the greater good of Europe and accompaniment. And it's been a quote by Lilla Watson that has been in my mind all this time. And it's this one, Lilla Watson, Aboriginal activist, Native Australian. She says, if you have come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Well, that working together, that happened with Rudi a lot. and it's been a great source of inspiration for me and for many others to work with Rudy. Rudy, can you share a little bit about who you are, where you're from, where you are now?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. And I'm Rudy Kimpioka from Congo, from Africa, and I'm a refugee in Lesbos, in Greece. I'm living here. I'm an asylum seeker, trying to survive in Greece. I've been meet Rico in 2019 when we had the big problem here in Lesbos. Refugees crisis was the old Moria called fire, and we met. He came here like to help people, to pick up people in Netherlands with the fly. So we meet on that time. Yeah, I'm living here and with a lot of things going up and down. Yeah.
Yeah, just to say, everybody on Lesbos almost knows Rudy. Um, and yes, we came 2 years ago because we fought for relocation. We fought to keep the Netherlands to its promises. But by doing that, I met Rudy, and there started this new cooperation. Rudy, you founded Red Music, and that's been an inspiration to me and to so many. Can you tell us a little bit, because we're going to listen to a song which is of Red Music International, but can you tell us very shortly what Red Music International is all about?
Yeah, thank you very much. Before to say that, I would like also to say thank you for all the team who organized this event. And it's a very good opportunity for us to talk about that. What I'm going to say, RAD music, it means Refugees African Dance International. I'm the founder of RAD. I started because of a lot of challenge. When I was leaving the old Moria camp, staying in the camp, it was not easy. And rather, I was thinking how I can help, how I can survive, because I was in the camp to doing nothing, and I didn't know where I am. Because when people thought about Europe, we thought about France, Germany, Netherlands, not like in the island. So I was in the camp. I couldn't understand where I am, and it was not easy to get out in this camp and to be showing by people. And with identifying all this challenge, then I thought and I wrote a lot. I started to help people. Then I found the way I can bring people together. It was by music. Because also when I was in the prison in Turkey, I was like singing and dancing for the people and giving people a smile. And when I came here, I was trying, okay, in which way I can bring people like refugees, local and international volunteer come here to collaborate, to be together, because we are here and we should to be together, because it was a lot of challenge. You can see refugees in the other side, Greek people was working the camp in the other side, and also volunteers. And then when I start like teaching dancing and music, people start to be together, and it has been big impact in the Greek island, and also for my life. People try to understand, here's refugees, here refugees doing this, and the same way I meet volunteer from around the world, and we are together working together, like we are working like with Week of Neighbor.
Very, thank you so much, Rudy. Can you tell us a little bit about the song you're gonna share, and then well, there we go.
Yeah, and the song is like it is a hop song. I've write a lot of song. I create also the song for freedom, and when the camp was got the fire, it's only the way I can support people. I'm nothing. I'm just like nothing in the world. But when I sing, I think music has a power. One day song is the song help everyone, not only for me, not only for refugees, it's for you and for all of us, because we live in this world. We need at least hope. At least we don't have money, we don't have a good life, but we should not lose our hope. So the song, it is about the hope. We bring hope to the people on move. People have been lost, the family, they have been lost, the children, they have been lost everything. When they arrive here, they only need at least hope. And if they have a hope, like me, I lost everything. I have only hope, and this hope bring me, you are watching me now. And this hope I have, and I'm sure in one day I'm gonna be together, playing together. So you're gonna listen the song, and you're gonna see some things there, like what Rad is doing. We're helping children in the camp, the vulnerable people, and also European people are getting hope through my song. I've been right. Yeah.
Sometimes I lay under the moon and I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, cause I am a chief for reason. Sometimes my tears are drowned, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it's all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to stay, and will not wanna fight no more. They will no more wars, and our children to play. One day, one day, one day, oh, one day, one day, one day. Don't disappear and never lose hope. If you do not hope, you will not find beyond your hope. I miss you, my family, but I have a hope I will see you soon, one day. Thank you. Sometimes I lay under the moon and I thank God I'm breathing. Then I pray, don't take me soon, cause I am a chief for reason. Sometimes my tears are drowned, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it's all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to stay, and will not wanna fight no more. They will no more wars, and our children to play. One day, one day, one day, oh, one day, one day, one day. Oh, the politician, stop lying to your population. We need you, and you need us. We are all together as one. Sometimes my tears are drowned, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it's all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say, and will not wanna fight no more. There will no more wars, and our children to play. One day, one day, one day, oh. One day all will change. People they say, stop with the violence, stop with the hate. One day all will be free and proud to be under the same song. Sing song of freedom. Why oh, why oh, 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 oh. Why oh, why oh, 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 oh. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to stay and will not wanna fight no more. They will no more wars and our children to play. One day, one day, one day. Oh, one day, one day, one day, one day we all be free. One day I will see my family. One day.
Thank you for tonight.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you.